You might be thinking, oh man, Resident Evil, time to kill some zombies and solve some puzzles. Well, the main puzzle of this game is why are there no zombies? No matter what, this game leaves a mark on the series that alters the course for the entire franchise, and it's one of my absolute favorite games of all time. I'm going to tell you why, and feel free to subscribe, otherwise Ashley is going to get carried away by a group of Ganados. Now our story follows Leon Kennedy, and he is no longer the wet behind the ears rookie that we knew from Resident Evil 2. No. Now he is a snarky, wisecracking super soldier kind of action hero out to save the president's daughter. How does this relate to the rest of the Resident Evil games, you might ask? Well, at the time of release, it really didn't. But thanks to a few throwaway lines of dialogue in Resident Evil 5 that says everything that you deal with in that game is basically a modified version of Las Plagas infected with either the T or G virus, and that makes this game become retroactively relevant. I love it. But who is Leon saving the president's daughter from? Los Iluminados, a terrorist group that's based in a rural part of Europe. Now, who leads them? Osmund Sadler, our big bad for this game, who is actually a terrible person in the absolute worst way possible, because what he's doing is he's using an ancient infected plague known as Las Plagas to control the minds of the local citizens, which effectively turns them into his mindless horde. The big thing to note about Resident Evil 4, though, is that it's the first big deviation for the series from survival horror for gameplay, and even introduced the over-the-shoulder aspect of aiming. We still get the tank-like movement, but it's still a lot smoother than the original games. But the story almost doesn't resemble a Resident Evil game. Yeah, we have Leon and Ada, we get mentions of Umbrella and Wesker, but the villains of this story are really isolated to this one game for the most part. So for this game to be so far off the beaten path of what made Resident Evil a loved franchise, why do people love this game so much? Well, I'm going to tell you because I'm one of those people that adores it and I cannot shut up about it. But I'll try and keep this as short as possible. Now we play the majority of this game as Leon Kennedy, aka Action Hero Extraordinaire, with a list of one-liners that will make you cringe. You start the game with your finally useful combat knife, a handgun, and a few bullets, plus a healing item. That's it. What's different now is the way that we aim. It is much more accurate because we get to use a laser pointer as a sight, and it's on basically every single weapon except for those that have a scope. I mean, it's even on a shotgun. It doesn't really make sense, but it works, I guess. When you eliminate an enemy, they have a chance to drop random loot because everybody loves good old RNG. That will be either money, known as pesetas because that's the actual currency of the region, and any ammo that you might need, or even a healing item. Sounds pretty common. Some very specific enemies can even drop a treasure item, like this big dude with a chainsaw dropping a ruby. Our objective is to run through each area either eliminating every enemy or somehow slipping past them. In this footage, you'll see me do a bit of both because I've played this game so many times I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to see if I can pull off any tricks I've seen by watching speedrunners. I did not succeed on many of these attempts, so the things that you're seeing me pull off are what I deemed the good runs. Oof. Eventually, we'll get Ashley, the puppy. Protect the puppy. The self-destructive constantly in the way, at least she kind of ducks in time, Ashley. And to be fair, the AI is not bad. This game was originally released for the Gamecube and was eventually moved over to basically every other system known to man. I mean, I have it on the PlayStation 2, 3, 4, and my Switch. I love this game. While Ashley's AI is not the best, I've bought this game too many times for me to say that it ruins a game. It's just a running trend to say that she's annoying. Just don't hurt her directly because that is an automatic game over. If she gets killed by an enemy, game over. If she gets carried away by an enemy that's too far away from you, you guessed it, game over. So, if you are unfamiliar with how to respond to her cries for help, she can be a bit taxing. That's all. Now, I'm judging this for the Switch for this review, and for a Switch port, it doesn't look bad. It doesn't really look amazing either, but you know what to expect when it comes to gaming on the Switch and graphics, especially when it comes to ports. If you want this game to look its best, play it on PC and get the HD version. Even the PS4 HD remaster looks better, but the Switch port is still absolutely worth grabbing because being able to take this with you and not lose any quality, especially compared to its original design, it is worth dropping a bit of cash in my opinion. Now you might be wondering, how difficult is this game? Well, when you start fresh, you can only play on normal mode, which is pretty straightforward. And once you beat it, you unlock professional mode. This difficulty makes the enemies deal more damage and respond somewhat differently to your actions. If you haven't played before, both provide an adequate challenge. The boss encounters on any difficulty are always a lot of fun. Delago is our first big boss fight. He is an overgrown crocodile that you just chuck harpoons at. It was a really innovative boss fight that I was not expecting when I picked up this game. El Gigante is absolutely intimidating anytime that you have to encounter one, unless you did what I did and blow it up with a rocket launcher, which I mostly did because I thought it would be funny, and you probably should save your money for upgrades if this is your first time playing through the game. Every boss that comes after those have different combat styles that keep you on your toes. If you want to find fast strategies to fight them, yeah, you can do that, but definitely play through normally too, because that triumph is an enriching experience on its own. Alright, let's break down the pros and cons, shall we? Pro number 1. This game does not get old. I've played through it more times than I can count. Across all systems, I think I've put in over 300 hours, and I still love it. You can drop into it with a fresh file and still enjoy it as much as your first playthrough. Pro number 2, the unlockables. After each milestone of completion, you get special bonuses, like Mercenaries mode. And if you get 5 stars on each map of that with each of the 5 characters, you even get a special weapon in the main game that I highly recommend that you try and unlock because it is absolutely amazing. First time I used this cannon, I swear Leon almost lost a hand. If you know, you know. Moving right on to number 3 for our pros, and that is accessibility. Money is very important for this game to make upgrades for your gear and even get new gear for Leon. If you're having a hard time finding special items in the area, they made it a very simple fix. Make a small investment by visiting the merchant and buying the treasure map for the area you're in. When you check your map from then on, there will be symbols showing where the valuable items for that area are and when they're nearby. You'll just need to search for them. They'll be in birds' nest and other areas or boxes nearby. Now, in order to make some valuables even more valuable, you'll just have to combine them, like the Beerstein and the 3 cat eyes. They started at 3,000 pesetas each. When combined, they're worth a total of 20,000. A nice little profit if you're patient enough to find all 4 and combine them. Now let's move on to our 4th and final pro, character. Every single character in this game has personality to spare. We have Leon, Ada, Luis. Each villain even brings to the table rich texture. Even if they get annoying, it's because they're supposed to draw a response from you. The game is meant to tell a story, a long action movie kind of story that again was far from what people expected from Resident Evil at the time, but it set a new course for the series and it stuck until the recent return to form. Now let's move on to cons, because even though this is one of my favorite games ever, it still has some negatives. Number 1 is playing as Ashley. There is one section where you need to play as Ashley, and that in and of itself is not a bad thing. But it only happens this one time. They've had you build up an arsenal as Leon, then they make you defenseless. The timing for it also felt off to me, and how it occurred was kind of strange. If you played as Ashley more often, I think it would have made more sense, but doing it just this one time made it seem somewhat irrelevant. Moving on to con number 2, and I'm really splitting hairs with this one, but that is overtime. There is a single line at the very end of this game, so I'm not going to get into it too much to avoid spoilers, but if you know, you know. Personally, I feel like it just comes out of left field for Ashley. She doesn't get a lot of character development in this game, and truthfully, most people fall into that category because that's how this game operates. Character development is a flattened heart rate monitor, but that also just didn't make sense overall. It felt like a cheesy punchline more than anything, but it could very easily just be overlooked. Alright, now let's do our little bit of a wrap up here. Resident Evil 4 is on more consoles than I could probably count. If it's a Sony console, it's more than likely on it. It's on the Switch, it's on Steam, it's on the Wii, it's on basically everything. You can download it on Switch for $19.99. Most other places you can get a physical copy for $29.99, but digital copies on basically any platform will go for cheaper. Now, I absolutely adore this game, but like I said before, it is not without a few flaws, but I'll be playing it forever, and that's because I cannot seem to walk away from it. With that in mind, Resident Evil 4 has absolutely earned a 10 out of 10. That is all for today. Thank you all so much for stopping by and sharing your time here with me. Feel free to like this video, share it out, subscribe if you enjoyed the video, but that is all. I hope that you're having a fantastic, amazing, wonderful day, because you're fantastic, amazing, wonderful people. I love each and every single one of you, and I'll talk to you all again soon. See ya.